So today we're going to be doing a deep dive into some fascinating personal notes and advice from author Ron W Rathbun. And these were originally shared with a young student over time. So it really feels like we're getting a glimpse into like a personal mentorship journey.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's wisdom sprinkled throughout all of these notes that I think applies to all of us.
Right.
So we'll be exploring things like self-awareness, conquering negativity, and ultimately finding true freedom.
Well, you know what's really intriguing about this source material is that it's raw and unfiltered.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a polished self-help book, you know?
Right.
It's more like overhearing a heartfelt conversation about life's challenges and how to overcome them.
Absolutely. And one of the things that jumps out right away is Rathbun's focus on the power of understanding.
Okay.
He says, and this is a quote, "The only thing that frees us from pain is understanding." It's such a simple statement, but it really makes you stop and think.
It does. And I think it speaks to the idea that before we can even begin to solve a problem or overcome a challenge, we need to understand its root cause.
Right.
It's about digging deeper, asking why, instead of just focusing on the symptoms.
Yeah.
Do you think this resonates with your own experiences?
It definitely does. I can think of so many times in my life where I was so focused on the surface level issue that I didn't take the time to understand the underlying emotions or beliefs that were driving my behavior.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started to examine those deeper layers that I was able to make any real progress.
Exactly. And this idea of understanding applies not only to ourselves, but also to our relationships with others. Rathbun talks about the importance of empathy, of really trying to see the world from another person's perspective.
He also has some pretty strong words about the dangers of letting our egos run the show.
Oh, yeah. Rathbun also makes this distinction between leading with ego versus the heart. He says when your ego takes primary point over your heart, you're in a hard place.
That's a crucial point.
I think he's getting at this universal struggle between our desire to be right, to protect ourselves, to come out on top, and our deeper capacity for compassion and connection.
Yeah.
When we let our egos dominate,
Right.
we often end up making decisions that are based on fear or insecurity rather than love and understanding.
It reminds me of all the research on defensive mechanisms and how our egos can actually sabotage our happiness by keeping us trapped in negative patterns.
Right. And in contrast to that ego-driven approach, Rathbun really emphasizes the importance of leading with our hearts.
Okay.
He talks about the power of compassion, not just for others, but also for ourselves.
And this focus on compassion isn't limited to our personal lives.
Okay.
He also challenges us to consider our role in the world. He tells the student, keep in mind, you need to be a contributing factor to the harmony in this planet, not a detraction from it.
Wow.
What do you make of that?
I find that incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
He's essentially saying that our personal growth is intertwined with our responsibility to make the world a better place.
Right.
It's not enough to simply focus on our own self-improvement. We need to consider how our actions impact others and contribute to the greater good.
It makes you think about the ripple effect of our choices, doesn't it?
It does.
Even small acts of kindness or generosity can have a positive impact on those around us.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, negativity and selfishness can create a ripple effect of their own, leading to conflict and disharmony.
So Rathbun is really advocating for a more conscious, compassionate way of being in the world, both in our personal interactions and in our broader impact on society.
Exactly. And it's not just about what we do, but also about how we make decisions.
Okay.
Rathbun repeatedly encourages the student to listen to their feelings rather than overthinking everything.
He actually says at one point, I'm trying to help you understand that your strength is you, but you should also be open to what people have to say. So you can decide through feeling, not thinking. It's interesting that he emphasizes feeling over thinking.
It is. And I think it ties into the growing understanding of emotion. We're starting to recognize that our emotions are not just these random impulses that we need to control or suppress.
Right.
But they actually contain valuable information that can guide us towards making more authentic choices.
And sometimes our gut feelings or intuitive hunches can be more reliable than our logical minds.
Totally.
Especially when it comes to navigating complex relationships or situations.
Exactly. And I think Rathbun is cautioning against getting stuck in our heads, overanalyzing everything, and potentially missing out on the wisdom of our emotions.
He has some really insightful points about the dangers of trying to control other people.
Oh, really?
He points out, did you know when you control people, you push them away? And then adds, and what if they are the people who can help you?
That's so insightful. It reminds me when we try to control or cling to others, it often backfires and creates distance in the relationship.
It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
The more we try to control someone, the more they pull away.
Yeah.
Which only reinforces our fear of abandonment and leads to even more controlling behaviors.
Exactly. And I think Rathbun is highlighting the importance of allowing them the space to make their own choices and recognizing that true connection comes from a place of mutual respect and freedom.
It's all about fostering healthy boundaries and realizing that we can't force anyone to behave the way we want them to.
Right. And speaking of boundaries,
yes,
Rathbun also emphasizes the importance of self-acceptance.
Okay.
He has this line where he says, the self-created reality you live in is a prison, and it's disassociated from freedom.
And to really drive that point home, he also tells the student, you have to understand you are more worthy than you know. It's like he's trying to break through the student's self-doubt and help them see their own inherent value.
And it's not just about feeling good about ourselves.
Right.
It's also about recognizing the limitations we create with our own minds. So often, we hold ourselves back with negative self-talk or limiting beliefs. We build these mental prisons based on past experiences or fears of the future.
It's like we're trapped in a story that we're telling ourselves about who we are and what we're capable of.
Exactly. And Rathbun's message is about breaking free from those self-imposed limitations and recognizing our true potential.
He also has this really interesting example about the power of giving.
Okay.
He tells a story about finding a lost wallet as a young boy.
Oh, wow.
And returning it even though it meant going out of his way. It's a small act, but it really highlights his philosophy.
It does, and it ties into what he says later. What a thing to learn, that giving is much more beautiful than getting your way. He's contrasting selfishness with generosity.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of research that backs up his point.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that altruistic behavior actually activates reward centers in the brain.
Wow.
Leading to increased feelings of happiness and well-being.
So it seems like giving isn't just good for the recipient.
Right.
It's good for the giver as well.
Absolutely. And I think it speaks to our interconnectedness as human beings. When we act with kindness and generosity, it creates a ripple effect that benefits everyone involved.
It also seems like Rathbun places a lot of emphasis on patience, particularly when it comes to personal growth. He reassures the student everything can be learned with patience.
This really resonates with me because we live in a culture that values instant gratification and quick fixes.
Right.
But true personal growth is a process.
Yeah.
And it often takes time, dedication, and a willingness to embrace the ups and downs along the way.
It's like learning a new skill or building a muscle.
Yeah.
It requires consistent effort and a belief in our ability to improve over time.
Exactly. And I think Rathbun is reminding us that it's okay to not have all the answers right away.
Right.
It's okay to make mistakes, to stumble, to course correct along the way.
Yeah.
The important thing is to keep learning, keep growing, and trust that we'll get there eventually.
He also touches on something that I find really profound.
What's that?
The mind-body connection.
Oh, yeah.
He has this powerful line, the worst pain that anyone can feel in life is the absence of feeling life itself.
Wow. That's deep.
What do you think he means by that?
Well, it makes me think about how we can get so caught up in our heads, worrying about the past or stressing about the future, that we forget to actually experience the present moment.
Right. We become disconnected from our bodies, from our senses, from the simple joy of being alive.
And I think that kind of disconnection can lead to a sense of emptiness or numbness, which can be incredibly painful in its own way.
It's like we're going through the motions of life without really feeling anything.
Exactly. And I think Rathbun is encouraging us to wake up to the present moment, to savor the richness of our experiences and to reconnect with our bodies and our senses.
And he seems to believe that authenticity is the key to unlocking this deeper level of experience.
Okay.
He says, magic only happens when you're being yourself.
I love that.
Yeah.
It suggests that when we try to be someone we're not, when we conform to external expectations or try to fit into a mold, we're essentially cutting ourselves off from our own unique essence.
And that's where the magic lies, in embracing our individuality and expressing our true selves.
Absolutely. And he reinforces this idea in another passage where he says, the truth will set you free. The delusion will trap you. You will have to see this for yourself. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It's almost like a challenge to the student.
Right.
A call to self-discovery.
He's emphasizing that we can't simply be told these truths.
Right.
We have to experience them for ourselves. It's about questioning our assumptions, challenging our beliefs, and ultimately finding our own path to freedom.
Exactly. So, as we go through these notes, one of the themes that keeps surfacing is Rathbun's emphasis on feeling good about ourselves.
Yeah.
Like he tells the student, you have to understand you are more worthy than you know. And he also points out that until you can feel good about yourself, you won't be able to fully process on your own.
Right.
It's like he's trying to dismantle the student's self-doubt.
Yeah.
Brick by brick.
I see that too. And it's really interesting how he links self-worth to the ability to process information and experiences. Yeah. It makes me wonder, what's the connection there?
Right.
Why is feeling good about ourselves so crucial for learning and growth?
Well, I think there are a couple of things at play here.
Okay.
First, when we're constantly putting ourselves down or doubting our abilities, it creates a lot of mental noise.
Right.
It's like trying to learn something new while there's a constant stream of negative self-talk running through your head.
Yeah.
It's distracting and draining.
Totally.
And it makes it hard to focus on anything else.
That makes sense.
It's like our brains are too busy fighting off our own inner critic to actually absorb new information or have the energy to try new things.
Right, and on a deeper level.
Yeah.
I think Rathbun is getting at the idea that self-acceptance is the foundation for all growth.
Okay.
If we don't believe in ourselves, if we don't see ourselves as worthy of love and happiness,
right,
it becomes almost impossible to make positive changes in our lives. We're always going to be operating from a place of fear and scarcity rather than abundance and possibility.
He also has a lot to say about the pitfalls of seeking external validation.
Oh, yeah.
He says, people who like you because of how you look will never like you because of how you feel. And so good relationships won't develop, adversarial ones do. That's a pretty stark warning.
It is.
What do you think he's trying to convey here?
I think he's warning against building our sense of self-worth on something as fleeting and superficial as appearances.
Right.
When we try to please others or conform to external standards of beauty, we end up sacrificing our own authenticity.
Yeah. And ultimately, those kinds of relationships are never going to be truly fulfilling.
Because they're not based on a genuine connection or a shared sense of values.
Exactly.
They're more about performance and approval seeking.
Right. And Rathbun argues that this kind of outward focus can actually lead to more conflict and adversarial relationships.
Okay.
Because we're always going to be competing for attention or trying to prove our worth.
Right.
It creates a dynamic of insecurity and competition rather than collaboration and support.
And this ties back to his point about the ego, doesn't it? Our ego is always trying to measure up to be better than others to win the approval game.
Right. And I think he's encouraging us to shift our focus inward.
Okay.
To cultivate a sense of self-acceptance that's not contingent on external validation. It's about recognizing our own inherent worth, regardless of what other people think or say.
He also talks about the dangers of comparing ourselves to others, especially when it comes to achievement or success. He says, it's when you're striving to be your best, not better than another.
That's such a critical distinction.
Right.
And something that's so easy to lose sight of in today's hyper-competitive culture.
Right.
It's like we're constantly bombarded with messages about who's doing better, who's achieving more, who's living the perfect life.
Totally.
And it's easy to get sucked into that comparison trap.
Yeah.
Start feeling inadequate or envious.
It really does feel like a trap because it takes our focus away from our own unique journey and our own definition of success.
Right. And Rathbun is reminding us that true fulfillment comes from pursuing our own goals and passions.
Yeah.
Not from trying to outdo everyone else.
Right.
It's about finding our own lane and running our own race.
He also seems to be encouraging us to embrace our individuality, even our perceived quirks or flaws. He tells the student, if you ask, what if who I am isn't that great? Then you're facing a compartment. What do you think he's getting at here?
I think he's suggesting that when we're constantly questioning our worth or fearing that we're not good enough, we create these mental compartments that separate us from our true selves. It's like we're afraid to let people see the real us.
Yeah.
So we hide behind these masks or personas that we think will be more acceptable or lovable.
It's like we're living in a self-imposed exile.
Yes.
Afraid to come out of hiding and embrace our authentic selves.
Exactly. And Rathbun is urging us to tear down those walls, to let go of the fear of judgment, and to embrace all parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
Even the messy or imperfect parts.
Right.
It's about recognizing that our so-called flaws are often what make us unique and interesting.
It's a reminder that true beauty lies in our authentic expression of who we are.
And I think this ties into his emphasis on honesty and self-awareness.
Yeah.
He repeatedly encourages the student to be truthful with themselves.
Right.
To face their fears and insecurities head on.
There's that line that really stuck with me. Honesty will set you free.
It's so simple, but it's so profound.
It is, and I think it speaks to the power of self-awareness.
Yeah.
When we're honest with ourselves about our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, it allows us to see ourselves more clearly, to identify the patterns that are holding us back, and to make conscious choices about how we want to live our lives.
It's like we're shining a light into the dark corners of our minds and illuminating the areas that need healing or growth.
And it's not always comfortable, right?
No, it's not.
Sometimes those truths can be painful or challenging to confront.
They can.
But I think Rathbun is suggesting that facing those uncomfortable truths is ultimately the key to liberation.
It's about breaking free from the chains of self-deception and stepping into our authentic power.
And he doesn't just stop at honesty.
Right.
He also emphasizes humility.
Okay.
He tells the student, the more humble you become, the more free you become.
I love that humility can be such a powerful force for growth.
It is. When we can let go of the need to be right, to be perfect, to be superior to others, it opens us up to new possibilities, new perspectives, new connections.
Right.
It allows us to be lifelong learners, to admit when we're wrong and to grow from our mistakes.
It's about approaching life with a sense of curiosity and wonder rather than arrogance and judgment.
Exactly. And I think humility goes hand in hand with Rathbun's emphasis on learning and personal growth.
Yeah.
He actually says learning is a gift, otherwise it's an endless lesson. What do you think he means by that?
It seems like he's saying that our attitude towards learning makes a big difference.
Right.
If we approach it with resistance or resentment, it can feel like a chore, a burden, an endless cycle of struggle. But if we can shift our mindset and see learning as a gift, an opportunity for growth and expansion, it becomes much more enjoyable and fulfilling.
I love that. It's about reframing our relationship with learning and seeing it as a source of joy and enrichment rather than a punishment or a chore.
He also acknowledges that learning isn't always easy or comfortable.
Right.
He says only where you can fail and admit it will you grow.
That's such an important reminder. I think we live in a culture that often stigmatizes failure.
Yeah.
And it makes people afraid to take risks or try new things.
It does.
But the reality is that failure is an inevitable part of the learning process. It's how we learn what works and what doesn't.
Right.
And it helps us refine our approach and develop new skills.
It's like that quote from Thomas Edison. I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
Exactly.
He saw failure as a stepping stone to success.
And I think Rathbun is encouraging us to see failure not as a setback, but as an opportunity for growth and learning.
He even goes so far as to say, stop with saying sorry. Learn.
Yeah.
It seems like he's challenging us to shift our focus from guilt and self-recrimination to a more proactive approach to learning from our mistakes.
Instead of getting stuck in the cycle of shame and apology, he's encouraging us to take ownership of our actions, extract the lessons, and move forward with greater wisdom and self-awareness.
He also seems to believe that true learning comes from experience, not just intellectual understanding. He says, only when you see for yourself will you see the truth. And that can't be told to you. It must be something you see for yourself.
He's highlighting the limitations of secondhand knowledge, isn't he?
He is.
It's like reading about something versus actually experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah.
The depth of understanding is completely different.
It's like the difference between reading a recipe and actually cooking the dish.
Right.
You can understand the concept intellectually, but you don't truly grasp the nuances and complexities until you've rolled up your sleeves and gotten your hands dirty.
Exactly. And I think Rathbun is encouraging us to be active participants in our own learning, to go out and experience the world, to test our assumptions, to challenge our beliefs, and to draw our own conclusions.
That can be scary, right?
It definitely can.
Because it means stepping outside of our comfort zones, taking risks, and being open to the unknown.
But I think he's suggesting that it's in those moments of discomfort, of vulnerability, of stepping into the unknown, that we truly grow and evolve.
And he emphasizes the importance of patience in this process.
Okay.
He reassures the student everything can be learned with patience.
It's a reminder that personal growth isn't a linear journey.
Right.
There will be setbacks, there will be challenges, there will be times when we feel like we're not making any progress.
Right. And it's in those moments that we need to remember Rathbun's advice and cultivate patience.
Yeah.
It's about trusting the process, trusting ourselves, and knowing that growth takes time.
And he also seems to be encouraging the student to appreciate the journey, even the difficult parts.
Yeah.
He says, time is your friend if you allow it to be. You seem like you're in a hurry with everything you do. Life comes at its own speed. The more you become in tune with it, the more it works for you. It's just the way it is.
That's such a beautiful reminder to slow down, to be present in the moment, to savor the experience of living rather than constantly racing towards some future destination.
It's like we're so focused on getting to the next milestone, the next achievement, the next level, that we forget to actually enjoy the journey itself.
Right. And I think Rathbun is encouraging us to shift our perspective on time.
Okay.
He says time is a measurement of it, not a living of it.
Yeah.
People measure living in time, not the enjoyment of it. It's a subtle but profound distinction.
It's like time is simply a container for our experiences, but it's up to us to decide how we want to fill that container.
Right.
Do we want to fill it with stress and worry and a constant sense of urgency, or do we want to fill it with joy, connection, and a deep appreciation for the present moment?
Exactly. And I think Rathbun is encouraging us to choose the latter. He's reminding us that life is happening right now in this moment, and it's up to us to savor it, to appreciate it, to make the most of it.
He also seems to recognize that trying to do too much too quickly can lead to stress and burnout. He observes there's only so much you can do in a period of time physically, and then it becomes stress.
That's so true. It's like we live in a culture of busyness,
right,
where productivity and achievement are highly valued.
Yeah.
And it can be hard to slow down or take a break.
Right.
But I think Rathbun is reminding us that we're not machines. We have limits. And pushing ourselves beyond those limits is only going to lead to exhaustion and depletion.
He encourages the student to find a pace that feels sustainable, to be mindful of their own energy levels, and to appreciate the moments of stillness and rest.
Yeah.
He says, so why can't you recognize that you can only move so fast in your day and relax with it and realize, wow, I was moving so fast, I was stressed and missed it all.
I love that it's like he's giving us permission to slow down, to breathe, to simply be.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an important message in today's world.
Right.
It's about recognizing that rest and rejuvenation are not indulgences. They're essential for our well-being.
It's about finding that balance between action and rest, between striving and surrender, between pushing ourselves and honoring our limits.
Right. And I think that balance is essential for both our physical and mental health.
This deep dive into Rathbun's advice has been so insightful so far.
It has.
He covers so much ground, from self-awareness to the importance of finding true freedom and living a life that's aligned with our values.
I agree. It's really making me think about my own life, my own choices, and the ways in which I can cultivate more authenticity, more compassion, and more joy in my everyday experience.
And it's amazing how these personal notes, originally intended for a single student, have resonated so deeply with both of us.
It speaks to the universality of these themes and the enduring relevance of Rathbun's insights.
I'm excited to see what other gems we uncover as we continue exploring his words of wisdom in the next part of our deep dive. As we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Rathbun's advice, I'm struck by how much he emphasizes the link between our inner world and our outer. It's like he's saying our internal state has a direct impact on how we experience life and how we relate to others.
That's a great observation. And I think it aligns with a lot of contemporary psychological thinking. There's this quote that really highlights this connection. He says, no matter what, it's important. You understand how we treat people matters to us first, because we are the ones who must live with ourselves. It's a reminder that our actions have consequences, not just for others, but for our own sense of self.
It's like we can't escape the ripple effects of our own behavior.
Right.
Even if we manage to hide it from others, we still have to live with the knowledge of our actions.
Exactly. And I think that speaks to the importance of developing a strong moral compass. It's about acting in alignment with our values, even when no one is watching. Rathbun actually takes this idea a step further, suggesting that cultivating selflessness isn't just good for others, it's a gift we give ourselves. He says, if you can learn to be selfless, it will be the greatest gift you can give yourself and others in your life.
So he's not advocating for self-sacrifice or neglecting our own needs, but rather recognizing that our well-being is interwoven with the well-being of others.
Yes, it's a different way of thinking about selflessness, not as a burden, but as a source of fulfillment.
And I think it circles back to his point about being a force for harmony in the world.
Right.
He seems to suggest that our actions have a ripple effect outward, impacting the people and communities around us.
Yeah, it makes you consider the kind of impact you want to have on the world.
Definitely. He also warns against the trap of trying to control others, emphasizing that it ultimately backfires and damages relationships.
Right.
He says, did you know when you control people, you push them away? And what if they are the people you actually want close to you?
It's like he's pointing out this paradox of control, that the more we try to force or manipulate others into behaving the way we want, the more we push them away. It reminds me of the psychological concept of reactance. When people feel their freedom is threatened, they often rebel or resist.
So instead of fostering connection, trying to control actually breeds distance and resentment.
Exact. Genuine connection can't be forced.
Right.
It emerges from a foundation of respect, trust, and allowing others the freedom to be themselves.
Rathbun also seems to believe that true freedom comes from within. He says, if you want to be free in your life, you must be free in your mind.
What a powerful statement.
It suggests that external circumstances can only limit us to the extent that we allow our minds to be imprisoned by limiting beliefs, fears, or negative thoughts.
Right. We often create our own mental prisons without realizing it.
Yeah.
We tell ourselves stories about who we are, what we're capable of, and what's possible for us.
Right.
And those stories can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Rathbun reinforces this idea when he says, the truth will set you free. The delusion will trap you. You will have to see this for yourself. It's just the way it is.
It's like he's issuing a challenge to the student and to all of us.
Right.
To question our assumptions and seek a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
He's inviting us to embark on a journey of self-discovery.
Exactly.
To explore our own internal landscapes and uncover the limiting beliefs that might be holding us back.
He also offers some fascinating insights into the mind-body connection. He points out that many physical ailments stem from mental and emotional stress.
He goes on to say, getting into your mind and learning detachment solves the problem and calms the body. That's why being in your mind is so important. You go into your mind and everything calms down. You do that yourself.
It sounds like he's advocating for the power of mindfulness and introspection. He also highlights the importance of feeling our emotions fully.
Yeah.
Even the unpleasant ones.
Right.
He tells the student, there is no way to control bad feelings, only to understand them. And you can only understand the bad through the good.
He's acknowledging that trying to suppress or deny our emotions is counterproductive.
Right.
It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to pop back up with even more force.
Exactly.
True emotional health involves acknowledging and processing our feelings, both positive and negative.
It's about learning to ride the waves of our emotions rather than trying to fight against them.
Rathbun also touches on the importance of self-care. And he also reminds us that true beauty radiates from within, from a sense of self-acceptance and love.
Absolutely.
It's not about conforming to external standards of beauty, but about feeling comfortable and confident in our own skin.
He says, it's all about how you feel. If you don't feel good about your experience of life, nothing feels good. Nothing.
It's a reminder that our external presentation is often a reflection of our internal state.
Right.
When we feel good about ourselves, it shows in the way we carry ourselves, the clothes we choose, and the energy we project.
So as we come to the end of this deep dive into Rathbun's guidance, I'm struck by the depth and breadth of his wisdom.
Me too.
He touches on so many aspects of the human experience, from self-awareness to the importance of authenticity, generosity, and living in alignment with our values.
It's remarkable how these personal notes, originally meant for a single student, have resonated so deeply with us.
Yeah, it speaks to the universality of these themes and the enduring power of human connection.
What's the biggest takeaway for you from this deep dive? What's one idea you'll carry with you?
For me, it's Rathbun's emphasis on self-acceptance and the power of feeling good about ourselves. It's a reminder that our worthiness isn't contingent on external validation, but rather on recognizing our own inherent value and potential.
That's beautiful. And for me, it's the reminder that true freedom lies in aligning our thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's about living authentically, embracing our unique qualities, and contributing to a more harmonious world.
Those are powerful insights, and I hope they've resonated with you as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps there's a quote from Rathbun that particularly resonated with you. A practice you'd like to try, or a new perspective you're inspired to embrace.
Remember, the journey of self-discovery is ongoing.
It is.
It's not about reaching a destination, but about continually evolving, learning, and growing into our fullest potential.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
We'll be back soon with more insightful conversations and thought-provoking explorations. Until then, keep diving deep and keep seeking your own truth.